Yes, oh my god, she just saw the fucking rat LANEVUS. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Art and Recap. I'm your artist Faye, and today we are reading chapter 281 till 285 of Lord of the Mysteries. In the previous chapter, Audrey prayed to Klein regarding information about LANEVUS. She told him that Shia's hired informants were murdered and that she wishes help to know how to proceed. Klein decided to take matters to his own hands and investigate the apartment where the explosion happened and then give clues over to Audrey. Now, in a creepy as fuck building that used to belong to a medical school, Audrey was wandering around wearing a white mask and a white gown, while her blonde hair was stuffed inside a surgical cap. Force, who was with her, was wearing the same outfit. They were at the Beyonder gathering Force told her might have the spectator potions. They entered a classroom together that has 4 skeletal specimens and 4 coffins made of glass. Why are there coffins there? Inside the glass coffins were pale naked corpses soaked in preserving agents. Better yet, why are there corpses in those coffins? At the very top of the classroom was a transparent pillar filled with liquid. There, a man was floating inside that was dressed in black scholarly robes. Other people dressed the same way as them slowly entered the classroom and sat around the long tables. None of them said a word. And this sounds like a nightmare scenario for people who don't like doctors, aka me. Just imagine being in the middle of the room and getting examined by a bunch of medical professionals who are just staring at you quietly like, ugh. I can just imagine them looking at you like judgingly and say, "You're too fat, you need to lose weight so that you can become more healthy." Like, dude, I came here with a broken bone. The fuck you mean with that? After waiting for a while, the corpse dressed in the black robes opened his eyes and said, "Let's begin." Meanwhile, at Eastboro, Klein was wandering around his disguise as a simple worker on his way home. He eyed his surroundings to see which apartment would be the best place to observe the explosion at, because he thinks that the person who instigated it was still around and waiting to ambush the person who hired Williams. He concluded that the best place to monitor the crime scene was actually from the building across from it. He had a quick thought about how he learned all of this from his time as a Nighthawk, and when I saw that, I had to narrow my eyes because it's clearly cuttlefish reminding us that they exist and we're possibly gonna see them soon. After all, the case we're following right now involves LANEVUS. Dali and Leonard need to avenge Klein and Captain Dunes after all, right? Anyway, Klein entered the apartment building and went up to the 3rd floor. After he passed by 2 rooms, he took out the cigar case that had the black eye and used it to check if anyone was there, like invincible. He could really only see the normal tenants of the apartment, so he's free to do whatever he needed to do. After resting for a bit because the eye took a toll on him whenever he uses it, he went to another apartment and repeated what he did, but he still had the same result. He thought, what the fuck, shouldn't there be someone observing the apartment as per his divination result? Or did he interpret it wrong? So Klein was like, hey, crazy thought, but why not actually check if someone is hiding inside William's apartment already and is just waiting to ambush the person who hired William then and there? Klein used the eye there because why not, right? And it turns out that he's right, the guy was in there. Klein thinks that dude must be really insane and not afraid of official Beyonders at all, because those official Beyonders, they could be wandering in the crime scene any day now, just to check out what happened to that explosion, right? Anyway, Klein went into the building as if he lived in the place and went to the bathroom. He knew the layout pretty well because it's a building that's similar to the one he used to live at when he first transmigrated, the one in Tingen. As he got closer to the public bathroom, his hands that has been in his pocket this whole time touched the black eye. He found an extremely tall man completely merged in the shadows, and Klein was like, dude, this guy is almost 2 meters tall. That's definitely not LANEVUS. Klein entered the public bathroom casually and booked it out of there as soon as possible. It'll take a few minutes until that tall guy realized that he never left the bathroom and checks out what's up. But by that time, Klein would have already gone way, way far away and stripped off his disguise. Klein went to the apartment he rented in Eastboro and went above the gray fog to divine that there's no danger of him getting caught. He conjured a portrait of the man he saw and then sent it to Audrey, telling her that it's a clue. Audrey was on her way to leave the creepy gathering in the medical school building when her mind got summoned to the gray fog. Klein showed her the portrait of a tall man wearing a black priest robe standing in the shadows. Audrey realized that she was being shown the murderer, and her mind instantly went to how omnipotent Mr. Fool was. She returned back to the real world just as Force was taking off the surgical mask. Force asked Audrey why she didn't ask for the spectator formula during the gathering and establish contact with the psychology alchemists. Audrey told her that since it's her first gathering in this circle, she'd like to wait and observe first before doing anything else. There really was no rush to get the potion for her, cause she already has it. Before the two parted ways, she said that she'll ask some special friends in the morning about info regarding the explosion at the Ravi Street. So, could Force and Shio wait until then? Force agreed and they parted ways. We find out that instead of going back to his apartment at Minsk Street, this is still so hard for me to pronounce, Minsk Street, Klein slept at the apartment he rented at Eastboro because he was worried that he'll get tailed by the murderer from the Ravi Street. He was this cautious because his divination hinted that there was a possibility of the man finding him, hence why he also kept changing his disguises. At around dawn, Klein changed into a worker's uniform and headed out into the streets. It was a foggy morning and Klein kept his head down as he shuffled along with the people on their way to work or on their way home. While he was walking, he saw a man in his 40s or 50s fumbling for a cigarette while shivering. Just as he was about to open the matchbox, his right hand quivered and dropped the cigarette on the floor. It rolled in front of Klein and Klein picked it up and handed it over to the man. The man thanks Klein profusely since he only has a few cigarettes left and he can't live without them. His words, not mine. The stranger hopes that he'll finally be able to enter a workhouse today because he hasn't slept for another night and he doesn't know how long he'll last. Klein asked him why the king and his ministers won't allow any of the homeless people to sleep in the park. The stranger said that he didn't know, but since winter is approaching, sleeping outside might as well be a death sentence. The man finally lit up his cigarette and happily took a puff out of it. Klein was about to walk away when he saw the man pick up an apple core from the ground and ate it with no hesitation. The man saw Klein looking and said that he hasn't eaten anything in almost 3 days. Klein felt sorry for him and told him that he's actually a reporter writing about homeless people. He asked if he can interview him and invites him to the cafe nearby. The man was surprised before agreeing since that means he can be somewhere warm. He had a small request though. He asked if Klein can stay a bit longer after interview so he can sleep for half an hour. Hell, even 15 minutes would be enough for him. Klein was surprised at that request but didn't deny it. They sat at the cafe and Klein ordered food for the both of them. He ordered 2 large cups of tea, a hearty meal, and 2 pieces of toast and butter. Klein said that they can start the interview after the man has eaten the hearty meal that consisted of stewed lamb and loaves of bread. Klein really only wanted the toast and butter for himself. The man thanks him with tears in his eyes. Klein warns him not to eat too quickly after starving for so long, and the man said that he knows cause an old friend of his died just like that. After the man finished his meal, Klein asked how he became homeless. It was because of bad luck, basically. He used to work and had a good life with a happy family. However, a few years ago, his wife and 2 children caught a disease that killed them. He also stayed in the hospital for a long time and lost his job. Ever since then, he couldn't find a job, and he didn't have any money saved up and he couldn't pay for rent or food. All he could do was wander the streets and parks. That in turn made him weaker, making it even harder for him to find a job. It's truly sad because I think this can happen to anyone. A lot of people are one paycheck away from homelessness and they have no net to catch them when they fall. After the interview, Klein waited in the cafe as the man took his nap, and once he woke up, Klein gave him a handful of copper pennies as payment for the interview. It was enough money for him to go to a budget hotel to bathe and sleep. That should help him get a job. And honestly, I think that this must be a heart-rending experience for Klein. He's always been aware that there are homeless people out there. Homeless people that couldn't sleep on benches because the police will wake them up, just like what happened to him when he resurrected again, right? But he's never truly spoken to any of them. Usually, the text points them out in a kind of slightly blasé manner, but this is the first time Klein actually came face to face with one. Fact is, Klein took pity on the man after seeing him eat the apple core from the ground. If he didn't see that happen, I'm not sure Klein would have stayed to help him out. After all, he was about to leave until then. He wasn't really planning for a small talk either. The man just chatted. And it reminded me of what a friend of mine once told me. She's a friend of mine who was a bit of a problem child when she was young. These are her words, not mine. I didn't call her a problem child, okay? And she told me that she'd often hang around the train station to smoke and chat with some homeless people there. She told me that they're very chatty people and that she thinks it might be because they're craving human connection that doesn't look at them in disgust. And this interaction between Klein and the man really reminded me of what my friend told me. I think that homeless man just really wanted to have someone to talk to, and Klein, being the polite gentleman that he is, waited until he finished talking before he left. If you look at the text, actually, the man has been chatting a lot, with Klein only asking why the king and ministers won't allow homeless people to sleep in the park. That was the only time Klein spoke to him until, the interview. Anyway, this whole scene, it really made me wonder, what was Zoming Rui like in the past? Like, yes, Klein Moretti suffered through poverty, but what about Zoming Rui? I know it's basic empathy to feel sorry for the man in that moment. Yes, I know, but it made me wonder if Zoming Rui, being a foodie, could possibly be a hint to him having a past that involves hunger. Like, depending on when Zoming Rui was born in China, he could have grown up with parents and grandparents that saved every penny to keep the family fed. After all, it wasn't until recently that the majority of China was lifted from extreme poverty. I think it was around the 2010s, when they announced it. So it's quite possibly the older generation of Zoming Rui could have come from such a past and they instilled the importance of food into him. Theories. Anyway, at around noon, Klein attended the luncheon at the Summers. There were 10 guests overall, and I imagine that this day was quite a whiplash for Klein considering how his morning was spent at Eastboro. Klein tells Mrs. Summers that the food was delightful, and the lady said that it cost a total of £4 and 8 solely to arrange the fancy lunch that they had, and I was like, wow, showing off much, lady? Low-key, her attitude pisses me off sometimes because she reminds me of those fake as fuck influencers that you see on TikTok. She tells Klein that if he keeps earning £10 like when he finished Mary's commission, he could make a banquet like hers. For people of their class, you apparently have to invite friends over once a month and also be invited by those friends in return. Klein tells her that he'll wait until his income settles at £400 a year so he can be like her, and she corrected him and said that it needs to be £430. And I'm like, girl, shut up. Oh my god, why is she like this? What is she compensating for? Seriously. Anywho, we changed POV over to Sio, who was disguised as a short man. She's wandering around the East Balam dock and searching for the murderer of Williams and Gavin. Thanks to Audrey's clue, she knows who to look for. She entered the tavern Gavin frequents and ordered a glass of rye and some food before she went to the corner and ate slowly. She observed the people coming in and out and quietly thinks that everything seems normal until a very, very tall man entered the tavern. The funny thing is, I know that the guy that she's seeing is actually the murderer, right? The one clad in priest robes. But I was thinking in that moment, well, Shio, everybody is tall compared to you. Now, Shio's been a bounty hunter for a long time, and that time working with sketchy people honed her instincts to the point that she knew she shouldn't mess with a guy. She lowered her head and continued to eat her food while skillfully observing the man without his notice. She realized shortly that this man was her target. He was the one who killed Williams and Gavin. After a few minutes, she left the tavern with other workers and set out to find a secluded area to observe the entrance. She waited until she found an acquaintance on his way to grab a drink. Shio grabbed the man before he could enter and dragged him to a secluded alley with her. The dude was hella confused at first until he realized that it was actually Shio Derecha disguised as a man. She told him that she has a question for him and gave him 5 pennies for his troubles. She asked if she knew the tall guy sitting in the tavern and what info she has about him. Burton, the man she was questioning, said that the tall man has been coming to the tavern for the past 2 to 3 months now, and that he's low-key crazy, so it's best not to provoke him. Shio asked where else he's seen the man, and she was told that the tall man was occasionally seen wandering around the dock union, and that apparently because of his height, the man was nicknamed Giant. And when Shio pressed for more information, Burton said that that's all he knew, and his friends also don't know that much, and he's sure of it because him and his friends gossip pretty often about the giant. Shio paid him and told him not to tell anybody about this, otherwise he'll be put in danger, and then she vanished to the dock union. Of course, she changed her disguise first before she mingled around with the crowd and observed the homeless huddled around the corner. She scanned every passerby, but she couldn't really see anyone suspicious. The door in the nearby coffee shop creaked open and she saw a man that was hella familiar to her. He was wearing gold-rimmed glasses and has a very, very punchable face. And yes, oh my god, she just saw the fucking rat LANEVUS. He looks a bit different now as a fugitive, but Shio was 99% sure that it's LANEVUS. At the Summers house, the guests were gathered in the activity room to chat and play Texas together. Klein was being a wallflower with Jurgen Cooper. Klein asked if the man was bored because of his serious expression, but the guy actually said that he finds the topics being discussed very interesting. He just has a resting bitch face like me. Klein was very stunned and asked him why he's not laughing then, and Jurgen counters with, "Why are you smiling?" Klein didn't know how to respond to that because low-key I think he subconsciously started acting like a clown right now. He was about to continue messing with Jurgen when he heard a prayer from Audrey, so he excused himself to the restroom instead. He went above the gray fog and listened to Audrey's report. Audrey said that she had someone investigate the clue he left her, and they found the giant and the person suspected to be LANEVUS at East Balam's dock union. Her assistant doesn't dare approach the two powerful men, but asks if they can report the information about LANEVUS and collect the bounty. Before Klein could answer her, he decided to do a divination. He divined with a pendulum if there was going to be danger at the docks, but the divination failed. He changed the divination method and sentence several times, but all of them resulted in failure. There were 3 reasons as to why that could be. 1 is that there wasn't enough information. 2 is that LANEVUS wasn't actually at the docks. And 3, LANEVUS has a shield against divination just like Insect Sangwil. He wonders if the shield was a benefit he got after the whole fiasco in Tingen, like a little godhood given to him by the true creator. Klein decided that no matter what it was, he had to check it out for himself. Klein disguised himself as a reporter once more as he headed to the dock union. He didn't take the black eye of Rosago with him in case the true creator's energy affects it. He didn't even take any charms or essential oils with him. All he has was a deck of tarot cards. He entered the dock union's building. Since there was no receptionist, he turned to the guard instead and said that he's a reporter and would like to interview the workers. The man said that, no, we're totally not organizing any strikes lately. So, yeah, I don't think we will like any reporters here right now. And Klein was like, no, dude, I'm on your side. Trust me. The guard was like, okay, go and find Mr. Rand since he's the one in charge with publicity of the Union Dock. Klein was given the direction on where to find the guy and headed in that direction. He knocked on the door and the man inside asked who Klein was. Klein said that he's a reporter and that he's here to ask for an interview. The man was wary and said that it's hard to believe that a reporter was there to help them, and Klein told him that he was actually born in Eastboro and that if he doesn't trust him, he could come along while he interviewed the people and stop the questioning if it got too much. And you know what, Klein? All these lies are falling off your lips so easily. What the fuck, bro? The man agrees and followed Klein around the whole time he was conducting an interview. But really, he's just trying to see if he can find LANEVUS among the homeless people. It didn't take long until he saw a somewhat familiar figure. The man changed a lot from Klein's memories. Like, he is now, more tanned, skinnier. He looks haggard because he's been homeless for a while. But Klein has no doubt that this is LANEVUS. After all, his spirituality could feel it. His body trembled and he had to excuse himself to use the restroom. He rushed inside the cubicle closest to the window and locked himself inside. Klein bent down as he let out a silent laugh. He was so sure that the man he saw was LANEVUS because he felt the aura of the true creator emanating from him, too. Klein knows, after all. He already felt it. This was the reason why Shio didn't react the same. She didn't know what the true creator felt like, so she could quietly observe LANEVUS from afar. But Klein? He became a shivering mess. Klein washed his face before heading outside to conduct the interviews he promised. Outside, evening has come early and he saw Shio sneaking around but didn't bother to stop or observe what she's doing. He went to the public carriage station and waited there. A horse carriage stopped in front of him and a man said, "We meet again." It was Stranger Danger Detective Isengard. Klein said, "Wow, what a coincidence! I was thinking about the last time I interviewed you." He was hinting at the fact that he's not here as a detective, so please take the hint and don't blow his cover. Isengard wasn't the top detective for nothing, so he played along and said that he was here to investigate the case involving Cyber, since she died close to the dock. Klein asked if it was indeed a copycat crime. The two of them had a more pleasant conversation before Klein got on a public carriage and went to Quilag Club. He divined that no one was following him before he could relax. Anyway, he finally answered Audrey's prayer and told her that there was no need for her to confirm if it was LANEVUS or not, cause it is him. She should inform the Church of the Evernight Goddess and add in the information that LANEVUS has received the godhood of the fallen creator. Audrey, who was watching her father train the hunting dogs, froze upon hearing Klein's reply. She was so excited because she knew that hunting LANEVUS wasn't that simple after all. And girl, she just really wanna fight gods at this moment. Honestly, I'm so excited for the day that she can finally 1v1 some people out there because I just know that she's itching for a fight. Audrey set up an urgent meeting with Shio and Force, passing Mr. Fool's message over to them via Susie. She told them that the info she got is legit and the two of them wondered how the fuck they got involved with evil gods. Force says that Audrey is definitely more than she seems and that this whole thing might be a power struggle between a cult, the nobles, and the church, and that Audrey only knew about the godhood now, so she's also being used by someone, and Force guesses that it's probably her father. Anyway, they shouldn't involve themselves any further than this and just collect the bounty. All they can do now is hope that the local Nighthawks will avenge Williams and Gavin for them. And oh my god, am I actually gonna see Dali and Leonard again? Please, cuttlefish, let me see my goth wife and twink husband again. It's been ages. Klein went back to the real world and put on a disguise. He knew that once the message is passed on, the Nighthawks will get involved as soon as possible. He thinks they might even take action this very night. He's excited as well as a bit depressed and powerless. After all, he can't really do anything but watch from a distance. He bought a mask and went to Eastboro dock and climbed all the way up to the clock tower to get a better view of the fight that'll commence at the Union dock. In the darkness of the clock tower, Klein donned the mask of a happy clown. It was 1 o'clock when he saw a huge airship flowing from the distance. It was covered in dark black paint that blended into the night sky. If it wasn't for the faint moonlight, Klein wouldn't have noticed them at all. The airship was completely quiet, and Klein wonders if it's because of a Beyonder's power. He was confused as to why the Nighthawks dispatched a whole-ass airship, especially in a densely populated area like the Eastboro dock. And I'm like, same here, but knowing it's the Nighthawks, they probably put everybody into deep sleep anyway. The airship lowered slightly and 3 figures dressed in black robes suddenly appeared in front of the building. Klein recognized one of those people. It was Crested Sesimir, the dude who tested Klein back in Tingen. Sesimir turned to his subordinate and told them to use sealed artifact 163. The man untied the chain around the silver suitcase Sesimir was holding and a bone sword appeared. The other Nighthawk took out a mirror and pointed it at the building. Nothing seemed to happen, but Sesimir ordered them to enter the building. At that moment, the giant emerged from the shadows to greet them. He clenched his right palm and the Union members in the building all exploded one after another in their sleep. Half of the bodies weaved themselves into a cloak that the giant wore. The other half rushed to the Nighthawks and blanketed them like a furry giant rug, like a disgusting bloody rug. Sesimir watched quietly as this all happened. The rug collapsed and fell down like rain on them, but the floor did not get stained red. Sesimir explained that this is a world within the mirror, and that it only targets beyonders. The flesh bomb that the giant made was merely an illusion. The giant humped and tore off his left shoulder with his right hand before throwing it forward, and I don't know why, but when I read that, I had to let out a laugh because it just seemed so funny to me, Like, what were you gonna do throwing that limb at them? Turns out that limb was actually a bomb because it exploded and rained on the 3 Nighthawks. The giant's shoulder quickly grew a new limb, and oh my god, why did Cuttlefish add the sound effect of smack 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 after that description? Because all I could think about was the giant growing a limb that was just hanging there and he was twirling his body around like a helicopter and smacking the Nighthawks with it. Like, come on, why did you add that smack 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 sound effect, dude? Anyways, the giant's blood had a corroding effect, so the Nighthawks dodged them by a hair's breadth. Sesimir instantly appeared in front of the giant, but the giant melted like a candle of flesh and blood and quickly seeped into the ground. Sesimir kneeled and plunged the holy artifact into the ground, and the giant let out a roar of pain. Anyways, the giant was dead. So, there were 3 more attackers that finally revealed themselves from the shadows. It was a Rose Bishop and a Shadow Ascetic? A Shadow Ascetic, people from the Aurora Order. Sesimir tells the 2 other Nighthawks to be careful. They had a stalemate and LANEVUS emerged calmly. Sesimir asked why the Aurora Order sent people to protect LANEVUS since he should be a blasphemer in their eyes. LANEVUS said that it's cause he's not just LANEVUS anymore, now he's part of the true creator. He opened his linen shirt and revealed how his flesh and blood conjoined together to reveal the figure of a hanged man. Suddenly, the void around them shattered like glass, and the scenes crumbled as LANEVUS let out the aura of a deity. Anyway, this is where I will be leaving you guys. Something short about the artwork again is this is the webcomic I'm working on. I'm still, this is like the 2nd chapter, and the 2nd chapter is out already, like it's completely done. So it's available on Webtoon and Tapas if you guys would like to read it. And I will be posting more of me working on my webcomic as soon as, the chapters has been posted. Of course, I'm not gonna stop posting illustrations because I do still draw a lot. Yeah, that is pretty much it. Link click is also right around the corner, so I'm super excited for that. As I mentioned before, Lord of the Mysteries recaps will slow down during that time, but I am not going to stop doing it. Okay, so now for the outro. Before I go, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It helps my channel out a lot. My commissions are open and my Vision link is down in the description below. Check out my story Dreaming of Aurora if you have the time. And finally, thanks to my patrons Robek, Vanarik, and J. Voljevelitska for the support. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!